This course explores the role of leaders in shaping organizational culture and values. Most leaders recognize that culture is an important mechanism for attracting, motivating, and retaining talented employees, a capability that may be the single best predictor of overall organizational excellence. Culture can be defined as a set of key values, assumptions, understanding, and norms that is shared by members of an organization and taught to new members as correct. Norms are shared standards that define the behaviors that are acceptable and desirable within a group of people. At its most basic, culture is a pattern of shared assumptions and beliefs about how things are done in an organization. As organizational members cope with internal and external problems, they develop shared assumptions and norms of behavior that are taught to new members as the correct way to think, feel, and act in relation to those problems. Culture is best thought of as consisting of two levels, the observable and the non-observable. At the surface level are visible artifacts, such as patterns of behavior, physical symbols, organizational ceremonies, and things like office layout. All things that one can see, hear, or observe by watching members of the organization. Culture that can be seen at the surface level is observable. Some values become so deeply embedded in a culture that organizational members may not be able to consciously see or be aware of them. These non-observable, underlying assumptions are the essence of culture. They are deeper values and shared understandings held by organizational members. Culture serves two important functions in organizations. It integrates members so that they know how to relate to one another, and it helps the organization adapt to the external environment. A high-performance culture is based on a solid mission, embodies shared responsive values that guide decisions, and encourages individual ownership of both bottom-line results and cultural values. Culture strength refers to the degree of agreement among employees about the importance of specific values and ways of doing things. If widespread consensus exists, the culture is strong and cohesive. If little agreement exists, the culture is weak. Cultures can be thought of as either responsive or resistant. Responsive corporate cultures have different values and behaviors from resistant cultures. In responsive cultures, leaders are concerned with customers and with people, processes and procedures within the organization that bring about useful change. In resistant cultures, leaders are concerned with themselves or their own special projects, and their values tend to discourage risk-taking and change. An organization's culture may not always be in alignment with the needs of the external environment. The values and ways of doing things may reflect what worked in the past. The difference between the desired and the actual values and behaviors is called the culture gap. Many organizations have some degree of culture gap, though leaders often fail to realize it. Creating and sustaining a responsive, high-performance culture is one of the most important jobs for organizational leaders. A cultural leader defines and uses signals and symbols to influence organizational culture. Cultural leaders influence culture in two key areas, vision and action. The cultural leader articulates a vision for organizational culture that employees can believe in. This means the leader defines and communicates central values that employees believe in and will rally around. Values are tied to a clear and compelling mission or core purpose. The cultural leader heeds the day-to-day activities that reinforce the cultural vision. The leader makes sure that work procedures and reward systems match and reinforce the values. Actions speak louder than words, so cultural leaders walk their talk. Some mechanisms leaders use to enact cultural values are ceremonies, stories, and symbols. A ceremony is a planned activity that makes up a special event and is generally conducted for the benefit of the audience. Leaders can schedule ceremonies to provide dramatic examples of what the organization values. Ceremonies reinforce specific values, create a bond among employees by allowing them to share an important event, and anoint and celebrate employees who symbolize important achievements. A story is a narrative based on true events that's repeated frequently and shared among employees. Leaders can use stories to illustrate the company's primary values. Another tool for conveying cultural values is a symbol. A symbol is an object, act, or event that conveys meaning to others. Leaders use physical artifacts to symbolize important values. Leaders take responsibility for shaping and managing organizational culture. Cultural leaders understand their important role in shaping the organization. Organizational values are enduring beliefs that have worth, merit, and importance for the organization. Key values should embody what an organization needs to be effective. Rather than looking at values as either good or bad, leaders look for the right combination. The correct relationship among cultural values, organizational strategy, and the external environment can enhance organizational performance. Organizational cultures can be assessed along many dimensions. Here, we will focus on two critical dimensions: stability and focus. We will focus specifically on two dimensions. First, the extent to which the competitive environment requires flexibility or stability, and second, the extent to which the organization's strategic focus and strength is internal or external. If we put these two dimensions along a horizontal and vertical axis, four categories of culture associated with these differences, as illustrated here, are adaptability, achievement, involvement, and consistency. These four categories relate to the fit among cultural values, strategy, structure, and the environment, with each emphasizing specific values. The involvement culture has an internal focus on the involvement and participation of employees to meet changing expectations from the external environment. More than any other, this culture places values on meeting the needs of organizational members. Organizations with involvement cultures are generally friendly places to work, and employees may seem almost like a family. Leaders emphasize cooperation, consideration of both employees and customers, and avoiding status differences. Leaders put a premium on fairness and reaching agreement with others. The adaptability culture is characterized by strategic leaders encouraging values that support the organization's ability to interpret and translate goals from the environment into new behavioral responses. Employees have autonomy to make decisions and act freely to meet new needs, and responsiveness to customers is highly valued. Leaders also actively create change by encouraging and rewarding creativity, experimentation, and risk-taking. The consistency culture has an internal focus and a dependability orientation for a stable environment. The culture supports a methodical, rational, orderly way of doing business. Following the rules and being thrifty are valued. The organization succeeds by being highly integrated and efficient. And finally, the achievement culture is characterized by a clear vision of the organization's goals, and leaders focus on the achievement of specific targets, such as sales growth, profitability, or market share. An organization concerned with serving specific customers in the external environment, but without the need for flexibility for rapid change, is suited to the achievement culture. This is a results-oriented culture that values competitiveness, aggressiveness, personal initiative, and a willingness to work long and hard to achieve results. An emphasis on winning is the glue that holds the organization together. An organization may have cultural values that fall into more than one category, or even into all of these categories. However, successful organizations with strong cultures will lean more towards one particular cultural category. Values in organizations are developed and strengthened primarily through shared values that emphasize the common good and are consistently advocated and acted upon by the leader. Values-based leaders generate a high level of trust and respect from employees based on these stated values. Leaders have to discover their own personal values and the values they want to guide the team or the organization, and actively communicate the values to others through both words and actions. When faced with difficult decisions, values-based leaders know what they stand for, and they have the courage to act on their principles. Values in leadership engage people in work that provides both service and meaning and creates a positive impact.